friends, welcome back to the channel. It's your host, Street Urchin. I got nothing for this intro. Quite an intriguing time for typology these days. Some do MBTI, some think they do MBTI, socionics, Enneagram, astrology, and some are making up their own typologies. But regardless of which system you use, typically you're not just going to believe that it works unless it's explained. Perhaps a few relatable examples, which is why I label what I teach as practical MBTI. If you can't use it to get in good with your boss, manipulate your significant other, or find out where you should best use your talents, then what good is it to you? Personally, I'm just a weirdo that treats people as puzzles. Eventually, I'll be the Dr. House of MBTI. Fun parts include diagnosing why people do what they do. Does this person always eat cornflakes because they've always eaten cornflakes? Is it because it's good for their personal health? Is it because the front of the box says that the company's donating money to sick kids with cancer? Or is it because they spent the night at a stranger's house and all they had to eat was cornflakes? That last one is, me. The human mind is supposed to be the one place no one can get to but you. Your inner workings, your preferences, tastes, etc. Those are supposed to be private and can only be known if you actually let someone know. Or at least that's what many people believe. Of course, if that were true, I probably wouldn't have survived past my mid-20s. I did my best to put as many points in charisma as humanly possible. The reality being that people express themselves one way or another, giving us crucial clues as to what goes on in their mind. In many cases, what doesn't go through their mind. Although pattern recognition is one of my key talents in regards to human behavior, MBTI was able to help me categorize what I had already understood in a far more organized fashion, which effectively leveled me up in terms of understanding human motivations. After many years of experimentation, research, interviews, and general rumination, I've been attempting to share my MBTI tips and tricks with the public, with some measure of success. After conversation with my ENFP brother, God rest his soul, he suggested that I make an attempt at creating some ironically named Masterclass videos. Now, I believe that both of us were under the influence of something, so the details are a bit fuzzy, but I think it had something to do with handing out tips related to my perceptions as a 10-year MBTI veteran. I'll be honest, I've never watched a Masterclass video before. I'd rather just jump into a subject with scant details and perform, massive trial and error. I got shocked by a dishwasher once. So without further ado, I welcome you to the very first Street Urchins MBTI Masterclass. Hopefully they'll just get better over time. Brought to you by the lovely people donating through Patreon. There's a lot of things involved in MBTI. Cognitive functions, their place in the stack. How they work together to form advanced concepts such as empathy, lie detection, various forms of creativity. It would take multiple lifetimes to know each personality type completely, how they would react in situations given specific context. How would an ISTJ virgin react when taken inside a brothel? How would an ENFJ behave if they were convicted of murder and sent to prison? These are the kinds of questions we can only speculate on, but we can use the MBTI theory to give us some pretty good guesses on general behavior. For example, did you know that when a young ISFP meets someone they find attractive for the first time, they exude a kind of nervous energy, going above and beyond to show approval for whatever that person says, giggling over every quip while they stare blankly into the eyes of the person they hope is someone they can spend the rest of their life with. And that's because the ISFP is overcome with emotions brought about by their lead function, introverted feeling, coupled with their tertiary preference, introverted intuition, which in the third position regularly gives them fantastical ideas of what their life could be like. So what appears to be the doe-eyed stare of boredom is actually them fantasizing about what life with you would be like. Be sure to stay tuned for more helpful tips from me, Cowboy Urchin. The fun part of MBTI is in the ability to accurately type someone, which comes about when you've successfully identified their cognitive function preferences. There are 4 core preferences: thinking, feeling, sensing, intuition, and each of them have introverted and extroverted versions. The difference between the two are vast and bear little, if any, resemblance to its counterpart. Let's take, for example, introverted sensing. That function is about personal memory. Those with a strong preference for it essentially obsess over their past experiences. This includes their traditions and a desire to conserve those traditions, assuming that they worked for them. This does mean that they have excellent ability to recall those memories, and the ability to recall a greater level of detail than the average person. Extroverted sensing, on the other hand, is about reacting to stimuli in the here and now, looking at how things are rather than what they could be. A strong sense of realism. Many who preference it indulge in things like arts and crafts, painting, gardening, first-person shooters. For modern times, this generally means professions or activities that involve physical dexterity. Although many who preference extroverted sensing may decide to engage in more physically confrontational arenas. The The ISTP, for example, enjoys dominating in that regard. Many of the most vicious and effective MMA fighters would be diagnosed as ISTP. They enjoy defeating opponents through calculated physicality, coming from a combination of introverted thinking and extroverted sensing. But don't get the wrong impression about these functions and where they lay in what I call the function tower. Every person on this planet uses all 8 functions every day. So it's not a question of whether someone has certain functions. The question is how frequently they use it, and noticing the associated behaviors that come with years of preference. INTPs, for example, spend their lives gaining a personal understanding of theoretical concepts, but at the cost of general sociability and charisma. They'd rather bury their nose in a physics book than learn about us humans. In their studies, they also tend to learn a great deal of trivia that most people would deem useless. My INTP friend of 20 years could give you some very exciting information about black holes, but could also tell you when the next Renaissance Festival will take place, or how many nuclear weapons the United States has at its disposal. Very useful information. This comes from a combination of the first 3 functions: introverted thinking, extroverted intuition, and introverted sensing. The lack of RIZ, as the kids call it, comes from extroverted feeling being in the 4th position. Point being, just because we use those functions, it doesn't mean we're going to have approached situations using the same functions, thereby ensuring that we all have our own levels of personal skill when applying them. And in case you're wondering, yes, as we get older, we gain more experience, even getting better at using functions we wouldn't have considered in our late teens. But overall, we are hardwired to have a stronger preference for the first 2. The rest is more akin to a balancing act that we use to adequately correct for our primary behaviors. On the topic of interpersonal relationships between types, I won't get into it much in this video, but yes, some types get along better with others for various reasons. But it's been my experience over the past 10 years that people get along more frequently with a common preference for perceiving functions, those being sensing and intuition, rather than the decision-making functions, thinking and feeling. Those with the same perceiving functions often have similar ideas in mind and usually enjoy similar activities. If you're wondering about long-term romantic compatibilities, you should be looking for someone with the same interests, not the same functions. MBTI looks at core cognitive processes and doesn't necessarily tell us about someone's exact recreational choices. Thankfully, we have the internet nowadays, so if you're looking for someone who shares your personal hobbies and interests, Facebook has a million groups, and I'm sure one would fit you just fine. On the subject of places to find horrible information, if you're just starting out in MBTI, you will have likely come across several sources of information regarding types and cognitive functions, and you'll most likely find that none of them can really agree with each other, and that's because most of them are, There are a lot of different people that have what is realistically their own version of MBTI. They're often a compilation of theories scoured from the internet or works from Carl Jung and associated peoples. And as far as theory crafting goes, I'm sure it's downright comedic to talk about. But in the real world, much of their material isn't going to be effective or helpful. That analysis comes from 10 years of giggling to myself while I listen to YouTube videos about how INFJs are essentially magical creatures, or that ENTPs prefer extroverted thinking as they get older as opposed to their introverted thinking. Damn near killed me. If you're looking for your daily fix of cringe, I recommend any Reddit MBTI threads. Conclusion being, do not believe what you read. If you decide to go anywhere for MBTI information, you should start at the official website. Take the definitions and then find out how they work with the people around you. See the theory come to life in real time. Take your notes. Do your experiments. If you're someone that doesn't want to take the time out of their life to do that, then you could always, watch my videos. I also answer MBTI questions on my Discord if you're feeling lonely. Hello friends, it's Cowboy Urchin. Did you know that MBTI is a great way for determining what jobs people would enjoy and even be great at? It was developed during World War II to better replace those that joined the war effort. In fact, MBTI is still used today by companies, the military, and other government agencies. Introverted sensors, for example, are great at being able to follow and memorize procedures and protocols. They can make excellent doctors, lawyers, law enforcement officers, not to mention soldiers. Introverted intuitives are very focused and highly driven individuals. They take their duties very seriously and make it their personal mission to be excellent in whatever career they choose. Being anything less than the best is a personal insult and will keep them up at night working on improvement. Extroverted sensors have a specialty for working with their hands. Although many manual jobs aren't prestigious, they're vital to keeping our way of life intact. Some even take their preference for the physical to the next level, becoming surgeons, engineers, fabricators, even professional sports players. As for those extroverted intuitives, they're generally seen as unmotivated, whimsical, lazy, and that's it. This has been More Helpful Hints from Cowboy Urchin. And I believe that will be it for the Masterclass introduction video. I hope you all had fun. Make sure to click that notification bell button thing so you can catch my latest videos. We're real close to monetization, so feel free to share my videos with anyone that enjoys MBTI. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye!